Biological weapon attack against the US by a Chinese student. So that's now what's happening in our country. We have Chinese students trying to launch biological weapon attacks against nothing less than our entire food supply. And that's not theoretical. That's not being an extremist. That's the reality. Why else bring it here? What was the purpose? And we know what the purpose was. And we know who it came from, a Chinese student. But just to get more detail, watch this story.
Communist Party loyalist and researcher at the University of Michigan. To me, those words should never be in the same sentence. Why are American universities harboring the enemy often throughout our nation in the name of research?
Because the universities make a lot of money from China, through students, through other ways, contributions. And that's why we have these very disturbing ties between American institutions of higher learning and China. And we need to break that because obviously the dangers are there, as we see with this fungus case.
For every one of these foreign agents that we catch, Gordon, how many more are roaming among us and, quite frankly, clearly trying to destroy us from within?
There's so many. And it's not just the researchers. Remember, there are Chinese consular officials and Ministry of State Security agents on our soil. And they've been operating in ways that violate our laws and that are inconsistent with the Vienna Convention. But the story here is that this has been going on for a very long time, Todd. We know what's going on. We have the means to stop it. So it's on us. And that's why it's important to break these connections now, to show China that we will no longer tolerate this behavior.
And as Gordon Chang rightly points out, this is nothing new. This has been going on for a long time in this country, going back before the Biden administration, but it was absolutely horrific during the Biden administration with our open borders. So watch this next video because Gordon Chang is going to talk about the issue we have with these military age Chinese people coming into our country across the southern border, something that we don't talk about enough. And we actually have numbers on how many of these Chinese people came into our country. Watch this video.
But the other issue, of course, is the border, as you've talked about, because across that border, we are seeing Chinese soldiers come across. And really what we're talking about is China putting together the infrastructure in the U.S. to attack the U.S. So clearly we've got to secure that border or we're going to be fighting on our own soil.
Well, it's just incredible to me that this administration refuses to acknowledge all these Chinese nationals that are coming through the border. They're creating a little mini army. And I'm wondering what the point is here. Are they trying to put people in place, I'm talking about communist China, so that when and if Donald Trump wins, they can create havoc in the streets and become saboteurs, starting wildfires and propaganda?
Absolutely. That lab in Reedley, California, the secret Chinese biological weapons facility, that can't be the only one that China has. And then you put together these images of recent Chinese migrants coming into the U.S. less than 3 weeks, taking target practice with sniper rifles and pistols. So really what we have here is the makings of a Chinese army, not in China, but in the United States itself. And the Biden administration is not tracking these people.
And, as the video points out, we're not talking about, 2,000 people. We're talking about tens of thousands of Chinese military-age people that were allowed into our country during the Biden administration. And they are not here because they want to integrate with our country. And people need to wake up. And I'm really talking primarily to Democrats. Wake up and understand what's going on with China. That is not a friend of ours at all. To me, it's just a travesty that we are so dependent upon them for manufacturing, and hopefully that changes. But it's an incredibly sobering story when you put all the pieces together. This is the same China that flew a balloon, a spy balloon, across the entire width of our country, again, during the Biden administration. Of course, nothing was done to this balloon until it got over the ocean. All sorts of excuses why they couldn't bring it down before then. Wake up, America. China is a problem. And that gets to why the Trump administration, Department of Homeland Security, and others are working, the Secretary of State, are working so hard to eliminate the number of Chinese people that are in this country. And quite frankly, it starts with these Chinese students. We have hundreds of thousands of Chinese students supposedly studying in this country, but based upon this story, we know what many of them are up to. They spy on us and send that information back to China. We know that China basically steals about 500 billion, not million, $500 billion worth of intellectual property every single year. And it's happening in part because we have hundreds of thousands of Chinese students in this country actively spying for the Chinese Communist Party. And it absolutely needs to stop. So watch this next video because it's going to bring us from the past under the Biden administration to the present under the Trump administration on how the Trump administration is trying to fight back against this. Here goes the video.
Because sometimes when I look at some of the issues going on in America right now, I feel like there's a Marxist thread. And I think that Marxist thread sometimes comes from the Communist Party of China. Now, you've zeroed in on universities as well, and how the universities are giving so much benefit to foreign students. I want to talk to you about Harvard and what the issue is with regard to the Communist Party of China. Lay it out for us.
Oh, they absolutely. Harvard has perpetuated Chinese Communist Party priorities and students on their campus. They've allowed their students to participate in activities that are paramilitary activities and supported them and feeding information back to our enemy, which is Communist China. In fact, even the leader, Xi Jinping of China's daughter, has a degree from Harvard. And hundreds of thousands of these foreign students have come into our country. And our universities have facilitated it because they pay full tuition. They've taken away opportunities from our American students. And then they've allowed them to perpetuate violence, attack Jewish students, go and put forward more anti-Semitism and be racists. And then communist and Marxist ideologies were allowed as well on these campuses. So Harvard has talked a game to where now they say they want to comply with the requirements of our foreign student programs. They absolutely have not. They have not followed the rules of the program, the vetting processes of these students, giving us the information on their criminal background checks, what they may have done to break the law in their country or here or promote violence on campus, and they won't comply. Therefore, they will not get to participate. They want these students on campus because it's almost 30% of their students. They pay full tuition, and they also have ties directly back to China. China hates us. And they have infiltrated our country. They've hacked into our systems. They've proven they can shut down our critical infrastructure. They're not just building up their military. They want to destroy us. And Harvard is allowing that to happen on their campus. And the Trump administration's going to stop it.
You know, it's amazing to me, and I'd really like to see the comments below, what you think about this Chinese issue, because it's becoming increasingly dangerous. And I hope most people realize that. I'm not trying to be fatalistic. I'm just trying to encourage people to understand it's a problem. We need to do something about it. We're trying to. But what's amazing is how many Democrat politicians just are interested in blocking the Trump administration's attempt to keep the country safer from, amongst other things, the Chinese and Chinese students. And it really does point back to Harvard. It's not just Harvard, though. I mean, that student with a biological weapon was in Michigan, so they are all over the place in our country. And quite frankly, they don't need to be here. Why in heaven's creation do we allow all these people into this country, whether they're illegally coming across the border or we allow them to come and study and spy on the country? Why take that risk? It makes absolutely zero sense. So hopefully that begins to change. And again, let me know in the comments section what you think. I know I'm going to have all sorts of Democrats down there because these videos still primarily get sent to Los Angeles and New York City. So I understand Democrats are going to comment in the comment section, and I welcome the comments, but let's keep it fact-based and let's keep it value-based, meaning constructive, meaning what do you see the problem is? What do you think we should do about it? That's what the conversation needs to be about. Also, let me know down in the comments below if you even think this is a problem. It's befuddling to me how many people think this is not a problem. We are so content in this country that we just don't pay attention. We are so blessed and fortunate in this country that we think, I don't know, we're just invincible. We can be so kind and generous. And the reality is we can't be, nor should we be. We should be very protective of what we have and not squander it. So I'm very curious to see what everybody thinks about this situation in the comments below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Want to see more like it? Then definitely subscribe, because I'll be putting out content like this into the future. If you know anybody interested in the subject, share it with them. And as always, until next time, God bless. Love you all.